The apparent loss of Kharkiv could prove to be a major blow for Russia's military campaign. Ukraine's second-largest city was expected to fall to Russian control in the first few weeks of the war. It's raised questions over whether Russia may fail in its overall objectives and instead settle for a compromise. Well, let's talk to Jamie Shea, who's the former NATO Deputy Assistant Secretary-General for Emerging Security Challenges. Welcome back to the programme, Jamie. So it looks like Ukraine's pushed Russia back to its border north of Kharkiv. Will this be seen as a big loss for the country? What does it mean?
Well, thanks first and foremost for having me back on the programme. It's certainly another setback for Russia because Kharkiv was the second largest city of Ukraine. It's Russian-speaking. And if Putin's objective was to seize the Russian-speaking areas of Ukraine and try to detach them and one day integrate them into Russia, then the failure to capture Kharkiv after the failure to capture the capital, Kiev, of course, is a setback. But we've also been seeing for some time that the Russians have dramatically scaled down their ambitions in Ukraine. They're concentrating more on the south. They're trying to expand their bridgehead in the Donbass area, where Russian separatists have been helping them since 2014, and consolidating their hold over the Black Sea coast. And if they do succeed in totally capturing Mariupol, then they will have quite an extensive slice of Ukrainian territory, very important for Ukraine's economy, along that Black Sea coast. So yes, it's good news for Ukraine, but unfortunately the bare facts are still the bare facts, which that Russia is in control of about 21% of Ukraine's territory, about the size of Greece. And unfortunately, what Russia controls represents a lot of the agricultural production areas of Ukraine, its vital export ports on the Black Sea coast, and its mining and steel production in the Donbass. So if the Ukrainians want to push Russia all the way back out of their territory, they're still, unfortunately, got to have to do a lot of fighting.
But as you say, though, good news from Ukraine's point of view and a big step for forces which have been on the defensive for much of this war. So what tactics are Ukraine using that are clearly working for them?
Well, first of all, they are getting now the supplies of these modern heavy weapons from NATO countries. For example, the United States has just delivered 90 W-77 howitzers, which are long range, which are extremely accurate, ideal for destroying Russian tanker formations. And the Ukrainians have obviously been also getting a lot of very good tactical intelligence from the United States and other NATO countries. They're now getting the training to use those weapons well, particularly, for example, more modern drones, which are giving them good observation and the rest. So providing that the West is able to maintain those supplies over the next couple of weeks or even months, the Ukrainians are able to come out of their defensive positions, know what the Russians are up to in advance, and exploit, obviously, their knowledge of the terrain and the fact that clearly the Russians are still suffering from supply problems, which have bedeviled them since the beginning, and low morale among their troops. And we see, unfortunately, the Russians not really being able to win pitched battles, falling back on these sort of terror tactics of using missiles to bombard civilian areas and Ukrainian cities, and simply trying to wreck the country by destroying infrastructure as they retreat.
We've had confirmation in the last couple of hours that Sweden will join NATO along with Finland. There's talk from Russia of far-reaching consequences over that. What form would you see that taking? We've had a suggestion from Russian state television that nuclear weapons could be deployed.
Well, I think we have to distinguish between what these hot-headed commentators on Russia state TV say, and they are playing up, of course, the nuclear threat. But fortunately for us, in Russia, like anywhere else, TV presenters don't command nuclear weapons or send armies into battle. What we're seeing, I think, from the Russian regime is more reserved and more moderate, as it should be. When the Finnish president, Niinisto, spoke to Putin over the weekend to tell him that Finland was now going to send its application into NATO, Putin's reaction was very calm and very mild. What we're seeing from Russia is more sort of economic retaliation at the moment in terms of gas cut-offs to Finland. or more sort of cyber attacks, these kind of things, than any sort of build-up of Russian military forces on the borders with Finland and Sweden. And I would expect it to remain so. The more the Russians sort of threaten major consequences, the more they're going to drive Finland and Sweden, as they've done already, into the arms of NATO, and the more Putin will be seen to be suffering a strategic defeat when he can't prevent that from happening. So I expect the Russian regime, now that they know that Finland and Sweden are going to join NATO, to play this down and say that what they've really tried to do all along is prevent Ukraine joining NATO rather than Finland and Sweden.
Jamie, great to talk to you as always. Thank you for joining us. That's Jamie Shea, former NATO Deputy Assistant Secretary General.